Hey, what's up guys, Chris here, back into Borderlands 3, and the Bloody Harvest event is going to end really soon. Just 2 more days until December 5th, which is the end date of the event itself. If you didn't get the chance to complete all of the challenges associated with it, or get all of the terrified items, well, this is the last chance to do so, because we have just 48 hours until that happens, and at the very least, at the time of making this video, Gearbox hasn't fully clarified what's going to happen with them after this event finishes. So yeah, we're going to go over everything that you should do before that happens. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, a thumbs up on it would be super appreciated. But since we were talking about stuff ending really soon, if you're looking to buy some really cheap games, then you should go ahead and check out instantgaming.com. Instant Gaming sells games at some of the cheapest prices you can find around, and you can get Borderlands 3, the deluxe or the super deluxe editions of the game at almost half of their original price. Again, all of the links and everything you need to know about that are in the description box down below. Anyway, let's get back on track with the Bloody Harvest, and there's at least a few items in here as well as anointed effects that you should probably hunt for before it is too late, especially since many of these are extremely powerful. They also synergize very well with one another, and you can definitely create a very powerful build that can take full advantage of the terror effect. But we are going to go over all of these effects in just a little bit. In the meantime, if you're looking to squeeze as much farming as possible for the next 48 hours and get as many legendary terror effect weapons in the meantime, then there's a few locations you can do this in, and of course the first one, and the one that I recommend the most, is to go into the slaughter shaft. This is by far the best, or at the very least it was for me. The area is really small, there's a huge concentration of enemies, with most of them being haunted, which means that you're going to see a lot of weapons with the terror effects on them, but even more so the newly added Fearmonger shotgun, as well as the Ghost Call grenade, which can only drop during this event. So if you didn't get a chance to get these already, go ahead and farm for them right now. But there are other locations in there you can farm into. For example, the Cistern of Slaughter is also very good, one of the best in the game actually, and there's also the Slaughter 3000 arena, which can work pretty fine, especially since this can be unlocked really early on. And yeah, the only downside over here is that the arena is way bigger and it's also on 2 levels, but otherwise it can also work really fine. But we were talking about terror effects, and these are the 5 ones that I've been using the most, and these can actually work very well with one another. The first one is melee attacks have a chance to apply terror to yourself. This is most probably going to be even better once the Bloody Harvest event ends, because there's not going to be any other ghosts that can apply this effect onto you. So this is going to be the best one out there, especially if you combine it with something like the Face Puncher. So the Face Puncher basically takes into account your melee damage, and when you shoot with it, it basically considers its damage to be melee damage. So what this means is that this weapon takes full advantage of the terror effect that applies terror upon using melee. So every time you shoot with it, you get that terror effect onto you, and you can stack it over and over again, which is really damn good. Of course, in order to get the Face Puncher in the first place, you can farm this from Handsome Jackie, which is one of the targets of opportunity that you can find on Skywell 27 on Promethea. So a little bit of farming to do, but it is definitely worth it. But otherwise, you can also get this from the Slaughter Shaft if you didn't already, as it can also be a wall drop, and that is also the way I found mine. But if you don't manage to find that one, or if you're looking for another method to apply terror to your character, then you can also go with this one right here on Action Skill and apply terror to yourself every 5 seconds for 18 seconds straight. And this works best for builds that heavily rely on action skill, but even more so for the builds that can actually spam these. So for example, if you're going with Amara Elemental build that can spam action skills, you can use that, or with Flax Rack Attack build, it can also work with that very well. As long as you can spam your abilities, it doesn't matter what character or build you're using, you're going to be able to apply that terror effect to your character and keep the effect constantly upon it for all of those benefits. So yeah, both of these can work very fine. Another very powerful and useful effect is while terrified, gain ammo regeneration. The more terror, the bigger the regeneration it is, and this is something that I found to work very well for my Amara Elemental build variation that used the Brainstormer exclusively. And the reason for that is because the Brainstormer already shot very slowly, and it still dealt a lot of damage, especially in the melee one takedown raid that had a ton of enemies at the same time. So I could chain lightning between all of them at the same time and not worry about my ammo. And this is especially useful for all characters that tend to run out of ammo very fast, and on Mayhem 4, where enemies in general take a long time to take down, this can be extremely useful. Again, it depends on the build, but for Amara at the very least I found this to be extremely powerful. Moving on, we have 3 more effects that all deal increased damage, but in a slightly different way. The most straightforward is this one. While terrified, it increases damage and fire rate, and this can also stack. So again, if you're running with something like apply terror to yourself upon action skill end or upon melee attacks, you can simply just keep that buff going on, the terror effect buff on your character, and while that is going on, you can get all of that increased damage and fire rate to your weapons, and this is quite significant. I'm not entirely sure of what calculations go behind the scenes, but these increase your fire rate by quite a significant margin, as well as the damage, so you can definitely buff yourself up continuously. Another one is while terrified, deal additional elemental damage. The one that worked the best for me in this case was the cryo. I found this to be very powerful in the melee 1 takedown raid, and this just throws enemies all over the place. It's about 50% for any elemental. It can be shock, it can be corrosive. I'm pretty sure that these can spawn with all of the elementals in the game, but if you're running with a build that heavily relies on elemental damage, yeah, this is going to greatly benefit from that. Anything that augments your elemental damage is going to make this even more powerful. Otherwise, we also have the while terrified, you have a chance to shoot an extra projectile. The more terror you have, the higher are the chances, and I actually found this to be the best on a weapon such as, for example, the Cutsman, or anything that has a really high damage per bullet. But this effect over here is just insane on the Cutsman, especially against Wotan the Invincible. This was one of the best weapons to use because you can just stack this a lot and then jump in with the Cutsman and shoot all of those extra projectiles into the enemy and simply overwhelm them with the huge amount of damage they are going to get. And it's not just Wotan the Invincible, you can also go in literally any other type of content in Borderlands 3 and do something very similar. I've ran this and it's just very powerful. You can get so many extra projectiles just from the terror effect. It's unbelievable, and the Cutsman is the perfect specimen to have this on. Of course, there's others in there as well, and just to name 2 honorable mentions, we have while terrified, reduce all incoming damage by a small amount. The more terror you have, the higher the bonus. If you don't find yourself surviving as much as you wanted to or should, well, this can be very helpful and it will keep you alive in situations when you otherwise couldn't. And of course, we also have the final one, while terrified, gain increased crit damage. The more terror you have, the higher the bonus is going to be. I managed to get this on a dastardly Maggie, which dropped in the melee 1 takedown, and when I'm stacking that terror effect, I can deal a ton of damage with the Maggie with this bonus over there. It's definitely quite powerful. The crit damage is absolutely insane, and the Maggie is already quite a good pistol to begin with. So yeah, some really nice synergy going on over here. Again, some of these effects can be found straight on weapons, some of them can be available for your shield or your grenade, so it's better to just synergize at least a few of these and get all of these bonus anointed effects at the same time. It's definitely going to make your build way more powerful and fill some of the gaps where your build might otherwise be lacking. And finally, I'm also going to go over the challenges. If you didn't complete these already, don't forget about these. These can be quite fast to complete, with the exception of a couple of them which require you to kill haunted enemies a number of times, but everything else can be done quite fast, especially since you only need to do them once. And this is even more so the case with the haunted targets of opportunity or the rare spawns, such as haunted El Dragon Jr., haunted Demon Skagan, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, go ahead and take these as fast as possible, because this is your only chance to get the echo theme, the character, and the weapon skin, as well as the skull trinket, and that is pretty much it. But again, these can also be very fast. And also, since I was talking about these, also go ahead and try to farm the Fearmonger as well as the Ghost Call grenade. Maybe the Fearmonger isn't the most powerful in the game, but the Ghost Call can be quite powerful if it spawns with the right stats and the right variation. But yeah, this is pretty much it with the Bloody Harvest event. Again, just 2 more days or 48 hours until that happens, so go ahead, try to complete as many of these as possible, because there's a huge chance that these are going to go away for good. In the meantime, if I missed any terror effects that might be powerful, let me know down below. As always, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'm gonna see you guys in the next one.